scientifically.
Right.
But that's compelling evidence.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's good evidence against Stephen Avery. Anyway, I think I was digressing. I was getting off topic.
No, but yes, those are very valid points. The Innocence Project didn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, and nobody wanted to go near this.
That guy, right, Jordan. What that guy was telling me was he remembers at the time. Okay, so this is now 2000. Okay, he's exonerated 2005. She's killed in 2000. No, he's exonerated 2003. She's killed in 2005. He goes to trial in 2007. So my friend remembered like the 2005 to 7 period, and he was like, "Yeah, nobody thought at the time there was like any problem with the proof against Avery. Like this was not something that caught everyone like, oh my God, this guy couldn't have done it. He didn't know the evidence, of course, but this is what he said was the attitude at that time. Nobody was, there were no red flags going up like another wrongful conviction here. Doesn't mean it wasn't a wrongful conviction. He's got a good lawyer. Zellner's a good lawyer.
Yes, indeed. But we'll see where this goes. The next topic I wanted to talk to you about, and when you made your debut here on this show, we first brought this up about a year and a half ago. Bill Cosby. There is a leaked document that was reported on CNN a couple of weeks ago that the one DA wrote to another DA, don't prosecute him, words to that effect. What's your take on that leaked document and going forward with Bill Cosby?
Okay, so I've read the document because it's not private anymore. It's public and anybody can read it. It's because it's an attachment to a filing that the state made last Wednesday. On January 20th, they filed a response to Cosby's motion. It's like for writ habeas corpus, but it's a motion to dismiss the charges, saying that his constitutional rights have been violated, or at a minimum to tell the Montgomery County, that's where it's taking place, Montgomery County District Attorney is disqualified, prosecute elsewhere. So there are several attachments. So this email and letters and all these exchanges and press release, all attached. And the court's website is Montgomery County, Mont, MONTCOPA for Pennsylvania, MONTCOPA.org. And if you look there, /Commonwealth VS Cosby, that will bring you to all the filings in the case. In any event, all right, so you can read them for yourself. Now, what happens is the DA at the time of the allegations in 2005, Bruce Castor, wrote to the DA last fall, she's now a judge as of this month, and her name is Risa Vetri Furman. She became a judge, and her first deputy is now the elected DA. His name is Kevin Steele. All right, so last fall, Castor was running for DA again against Kevin Steele. Risa Vetri Furman is becoming a judge. All right, so he says to Furman, who used to work for him, you can't rely on Cosby's deposition testimony from 2005 and 6, because Cosby testified over 4 days in those 2 years in the civil case. You can't rely on that because I made a promise to him that we weren't going to prosecute. And he didn't take the Fifth Amendment in the civil deposition. So she writes back 2 days later a letter. Again, it's attached to this filing. Where is this written declaration you're talking about? Like, I don't remember any agreement, and we don't see any evidence in our files of an agreement. What are you talking about? So he writes back the same day in an email saying it's in the press release that I issued on February 17, 2005. Well, that press release doesn't say that at all. There's a paragraph at the end that references it, but however, there had to have been some discussions, and an oral conversation can be also effective in, conveying whatever. It can be a contract. It can be a contract. So if Cosby believed, and his lawyer died, by the way. His lawyer died last year. So whatever happened, his lawyer could attest to, he died, so we don't know. Cosby didn't take the Fifth Amendment. He testified he incriminated himself. And now his new lawyers are saying, well, you can't do this. There was an agreement. So the court's going to have a hearing. I'm going to go to it next week. The court's going to have a hearing, and I think Castor's going to testify, and we're going to hear whether or not there was this agreement or if the judge believes there was enough. The fact that Cosby testified without taking the fifth, to me, is some evidence that there was an agreement. And so there are three options that the judge has. He can dismiss the case outright and say, tough luck, prosecutors. Castor, made a promise. He bound the Commonwealth for all times. Or there was an agreement, but it's a little fuzzy, and it was an agreement never to prosecute, but at least not to use the deposition testimony. So you can't use his testimony or any leads from it. Find evidence elsewhere of this, but don't rely on Cosby. That's a possibility. Or he can say, there was no agreement. Tough luck, Mr. Cosby. You testified at your risk, and your testimony's coming in.
So in your legal opinion, let's make you the judge for this little segment. Judge Karras, if this was put in front of you, how would you go about it?
I need to hear from Castor. I have too many questions. And why wasn't this put in writing? It's ineffective assistance of counsel for Cosby's now dead lawyer not to have put this kind of agreement in writing. He was facing a 10-year felony. The statute of limitations hadn't expired, and he's allowing his client to testify in a civil deposition and not take the fifth, and he's allowing him to incriminate himself. Of course, there had to have been an agreement, or else his
that was the
lawyer
back in 05?
His lawyer was incompetent, but now he's dead. So I think
you're talking about the lawyer back in 05? There's
a lawyer back in 05. He died last February. So his name is Walter Phillips. His name is Walter Phillips, and he died last 2015. He's not the lawyer now.
There's a lot of people wondering why he allowed Cosby to say all this stuff, but now we know if everything is true with these promises and stuff like that, indeed. But take a stab at it. What do you think will happen?
I think that Cosby is going to prevail, but I don't know if it's going to be an outright dismissal. I do not see the judge allowing this case to go forward with Cosby's testimony. I think the judge may say, you can prosecute Mr. DA, but you can't use Cosby's testimony. But I'm saying this, I really don't know. I'm saying this because that, seems to be fair, and I've talked to some New York criminal defense attorneys who are outraged by the facts as we know them right now. But, I'm going by the filings, and, there may be more that will come out at next week's hearing. So it seems really hard to believe that Cosby would have testified and said the things he did, which was, yes, I gave women drugs. I did do it for sex, but it was consensual. I mean, what? And that he didn't have a deal, knowing that he wasn't going to be prosecuted in Pennsylvania. It's really, I'm just having a hard time with it. But anything's possible, and I've been wrong before.
Okay, we do have a couple of listener questions. Let's go out to Huntington Beach, California, and say hello to Sarah. Good evening, Sarah. You're live on King Jordan Radio on a Thursday night with Beth Karras. Question or thought?
Well, first of all, hello, Jordan, and hi, Beth. Happy birthday.
Sarah.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Well, let's just get to everything because I'm sure there's lots of callers. I agree with you on Amanda Knox completely, so I have no questions or comments, just that I agree with everything. Stephen Avery and his nephew, I do have a little tiny bit of doubt, and I really don't know whether I could have voted guilty. I'll tell you, though, after the verdict was read and we saw him just crying, and he really seemed so sincere. He didn't look like it was fake tears like we've seen other, defendants. That really got to me. I'm so upset over the whole county and their investigation and why they didn't have the smarts to just say, let's get another county in here. We better not set foot on this property. that just really, really bothers me. And the nephew, if anybody deserves a new trial, I think it's the nephew. I would be interested in watching all of Avery's trial because I don't think that we really can get a very good picture with a 10-hour documentary versus a trial that lasted almost 400 hours. And really, that's all I have to say about that. But the investigation was just horrible as far as I'm concerned. And now, Bill Cosby. I do have a question, Beth. Aren't legal records kept like medical records? I mean, if a doctor dies and it's still within the 7 years that those records need to be kept, they can be subpoenaed. I mean, they have to be kept.
Well,
so wouldn't...
Okay, yeah, go finish your question. Wouldn't you think the court would ask for them, right?
The lawyer that died, wouldn't his records have been gone through like with a fine-tooth comb to see if there was any notation anywhere about this?
Well,
or has that been done already?
That's a good question. It's a good question, and it is perhaps something that will come up at the hearing. The judge may want to know whether or not, anyone has subpoenaed the lawyer's files. It is possible that the lawyer's files have been turned over to the current attorneys. I don't know the answer to that, but I would think that the files still exist. It was, at the time that the case ended, it settled in 2006, so it was 9 years later that Walter Phillips died. I don't know the circumstances of his death or how old he was, but, it's possible that his file was turned over to the current attorneys. The thing is, the state doesn't have any record of any written agreement, and
right.
It's very strange to me. It's all very strange to me, and I think that if there's a doubt about it, it probably goes to Cosby's benefit, unfortunately.
Right. And then could his attorneys push this? Could they, let's say they're not happy with the judge's decision, could they push it and appeal the decision?
Probably.
And could this go all the way up to, I mean, for heaven's sakes, like this U.S. Supreme Court? Could it be that explosive?
I don't know if it will go that high, but it probably could go within the Pennsylvania courts, a ruling. But, I'm not an appellate lawyer in Pennsylvania, but it wouldn't necessarily stop with the trial judge, decision.
All right. Well, on that note,
and I want to tell you that I wouldn't lose any sleep if Stephen Avery got released because I have some real issues too. I'm not convinced that he killed her in the garage or the bedroom. Hence, I'm not convinced he killed her. So, but I have to keep my mind open. The trial transcript's available, and I want to say, in case anyone didn't know, that there was a push to cover the trial at Court TV. I was there then, and one of the bosses said no. At the time, all our efforts were focused on Southern Florida because Anna Nicole Smith had just died, and she was decomposing in the morgue in Fort Lauderdale because they were like waiting to find out like about an autopsy or something. She hadn't been embalmed, and it was like getting bad. And I was in Miami. John Cooey was being tried, and his jury selection was taking 3 weeks. That was all in February 2007 when Stephen Avery's trial was starting.
Well, I'm kind of on the fence, but I am leaning more towards guilt, I think. I don't know why, but I just am. Okay, so the other thing I have to say is it's a pleasure talking to both you and Jordan. And anyone listening, and I mean this from my heart, Karis on Crime is a fabulous website, and it's just chock full of information, facts, videos by Beth. She answers your questions. Everybody, really, skip your latte for one day and get this website.
All right, $5.99 a month. Well, it's getting a facelift, and I'm actually, believe it or not, going to relaunch in a couple of weeks, and then I'll have a book corner and a podcast section, and I have, I'm getting so much on the Aton Pates case.
Well, good.
So
all right, I'm going to let everybody else ask their questions, and I just appreciate very much that you took my call, both of you. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Sarah. So what were you saying?
You're welcome.
About Eton.
I'm getting a lot of the file and exhibits and Aton Pates. It's the Pedro Hernandez trial. It's coming up. It starts in March. It's the retrial. The jury voted 11-1 in 2015 to convict him of murdering the little 6-year-old Aton Pates. It was a huge
Here in New York City,
when it
right?
happened. Yeah, in New York City. It was a huge case when it happened. It was 1979, so it was a very cold case when this guy